After calling a plumber for a simple leak, I discovered an amazing secret that changed everything. Sarah stood in her cramped kitchen, eyeing the small puddle forming under the sink. It was just another reminder of her home's aging infrastructure, another harbinger of her tightening budget. Bills were due, groceries needed buying, and her job at the local grocery store barely covered the basics for her and her 2 children. With each tick of the clock, the weight of her responsibilities pressed heavier against her chest. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the phone. This call could lead her deeper into financial instability, but ignoring the leak could mean worse consequences. Her mind raced. Mark, the trusted plumber everyone raved about, came with a price, one she couldn't easily afford. Could she risk it? She took a deep breath and dialed. "Please let him be available," she whispered to herself, anxiety coiling around her stomach. His voice was warm and reassuring as they arranged a time. When Mark arrived, he carried an unassuming toolbox but radiated an easy charm. As he knelt to inspect the issue, he shared snippets of his life. A childhood filled with poverty, but, oddly, joy. He described his father, a mechanic with unwavering work ethics. Sarah found herself drawn in by his authentic spirit, a beacon of warmth amidst her struggles. She could feel her own worries loosening slightly, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. Mark moved deftly, focusing on the leak, and as he worked, her gaze drifted to an old photograph hanging above the counter. It was a cherished picture of her grandfather, the one steady force from her past. "That's my grandfather," she pointed, the well-worn edges of the frame telling stories of family love. Mark looked up, his expression shifting to one of surprise as he locked eyes with the man in the photo, recognition igniting a spark. "That's my father," he said slowly, disbelief blending with fascination. Intrigued, her heart pounded as he revealed more about a legacy left behind. Blueprints, inventions crafted by his father that could change lives. The swirling possibilities propelled her into a world where her dreams could flourish. This wasn't just a conversation. It was an awakening. Could those blueprints unveil a future she yearned for? Perhaps her grandfather's past held answers to her unvoiced dreams, long buried under the weight of daily survival. Just as the excitement bubbled within her, a nagging doubt wormed its way in. Her family had always valued tradition fiercely. Was she betraying them by desiring a piece of this legacy? Would they understand her ambition? As if on cue, the inevitable whispers of skepticism from friends and relatives echoed in her mind, each reinforcing the cloud of uncertainty. Could she pursue something that felt so foreign, yet so right? In the midst of this internal turmoil, another twist emerged. A distant cousin who believed he had the rightful claim to Mark's father's inventions. It set the stage for a battle of loyalty over legacy, igniting Sarah's growing desperation. Would her own family, entwined with tradition and duty, support her fight for integrity and identity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah felt the stakes rise, tension tightening in her chest. Each confrontation with her family left her emotionally battered. Was the chance at a better life worth the potential rift it could cause? The fear of failure gnawed at her, but the vision of honoring her grandfather's legacy served as a gossamer thread, holding her together. The road ahead was steep. As she wrestled with her emotions, one truth emerged. Her fight was as much about her family's legacy as it was about reclaiming her own worth. With each moment, the weight of her choices bore heavily down, threatening to swallow her whole. How could she navigate these stormy waters without losing sight of herself or her dreams? The days following Mark's visit were a whirlwind of uncertainty, with Sarah grappling between the exhilaration of newfound possibilities and the overbearing weight of familial expectations. Each morning she found herself at the kitchen table, staring at that faded photograph of her grandfather, as though it were a key to a hidden door. She would close her eyes, imagining the dreams he once harbored, the dreams of a better life, of stability, of a legacy. Her children's laughter floated from the living room, but even their joy couldn't drown out the looping thoughts in her head. Could she really step away from the traditional path that had been laid out for her? The fear pulsed through her with every heartbeat. What if her ambitions led to failure? What if she chased shadows, only to find her family further alienated? On the third day, she summoned the courage to meet with Mark again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the golden light painted the world in hues of orange and gold, igniting a determination in her heart. She couldn't shake the feeling that collaborating with Mark on his father's blueprints was an opportunity she couldn't turn down. When she arrived at his workshop, the scent of metal and oil greeted her like an old friend. Mark was busy sketching on a large piece of graph paper, his brow furrowed in concentration. When he noticed her, he set down his pencil and smiled. "I've been thinking about those inventions a lot. They could really help a lot of people." His enthusiasm was contagious, and for the first time in weeks, Sarah felt a spark of courage. "I want to help," she blurted out, surprising herself. "What can I do?" Mark leaned back in his chair, his expression contemplative. "They need financial backing, but also a fresh take on how to market them. With your story, your legacy, we could frame this in a way that resonates with people." A vision of her grandfather's smile pushed her forward. "I can help you research funding options. I can write a proposal. I can—" The words stumbled over themselves as they poured out. Her hands shook with excitement. It was a spark of agency she hadn't felt in years. As they brainstormed ideas, she noticed the energy within her shift. It was exhilarating to deliberate on a bigger purpose, and the potential for creating something meaningful tugged on her heartstrings. The fear was still there, lurking in the shadows, but she could feel it loosening its grip as anticipation filled the space. But just as they began to formulate their plan, a sudden interruption shattered her focus. Her phone buzzed with a message from her cousin, Alex. He had heard about the project and wanted to meet. The underlying threat loomed. He believed he had a rightful claim to the inventions and was eager to assert his position. Sarah's stomach twisted. A sudden anxiety pierced her excitement. Was her family's history now a battleground? She shared the message with Mark, who regarded her with concern. "You know what this means, right? He's going to challenge both of us." How could a promise of progress now carry such a potential for conflict? The stakes had transformed. The choice was no longer just about her ambitions, but involved standing up against a threat that could jeopardize everything she had begun to build. As she drummed her fingers on the table, the weight of her decision loomed larger than ever. The path to honoring her grandfather's legacy now ran through the gates of battle. With every beat of her heart, she realized she was committed to confronting not just Alex, but the doubts and fears paralyzing her. The time had come to face the family legacy, but as she prepared for their meeting, her thoughts spiraled into contemplation. Would her efforts be enough to shield the visions she shared with Mark? Or were they stepping into a conflict they could never hope to win? Feeling her resolve hardening, Sarah knew one thing. She had to prepare for the coming storm. The stakes had never been higher, and all that lay ahead was uncertain terrain, with just the flicker of legacy guiding her way. The next morning, Sarah sat at the kitchen table again, the photograph of her grandfather looming large beside her coffee cup, a source of both comfort and tension. The sun was barely breaking through the heavy clouds, casting a muted light that matched her mood. Today was the day she would face Alex, and every nerve in her body buzzed without respite. She wondered if she was ready, if she could truly stand up for herself. As she glanced at her children, their innocent laughter a symphony of joy and carefreeness, a visceral sense of determination ignited within her. They were just starting their journeys. She couldn't let fear define hers any longer. The thought crystallized her intention. She picked up her phone and typed a quick message to Mark, letting him know she was meeting with Alex and would share her strategies and notes afterward. This was not just about her. It was about all of them. Hours later, Sarah parked outside the coffee shop where she had agreed to meet Alex. The anticipation felt like a weight on her chest. As she entered, she spotted him sitting at a corner table, a frayed notebook open before him. He looked up, and the familiar sensation of childhood rivalry flared within her. "Sarah?" He greeted nonchalantly, but beneath his easy smile she sensed something deeper, a calculated indifference. "Alex," she replied, taking a deep breath. "Thanks for meeting me." His expression shifted slightly, curiosity dancing in his eyes as she slid into the chair opposite him. She had rehearsed her words, but as she met his gaze, she found herself grappling with a cocktail of fear and resolve. "While I'm excited about the project, I believe I have legitimate claims to our grandfather's inventions," he began, a hint of challenge lacing his voice. "Those ideas were nurtured within our family, and I want us to do this together." "Together?" she echoed, a sudden rush of indignation swelling in her. Did he believe this was about collaboration? Or was it a veiled attempt at control? "You want to compete with me for control?" The moment hung heavy, a charged silence pulsating between them. "Let's be honest, Sarah. You're stepping into a territory you don't belong in. Mom and Dad never thought you could handle this." He shot back, anger threading through his words. The accusation stung, but her determination hardened. "And yet, here I am. I may not have walked the path you expected, but that doesn't mean I lack the capability or the passion to bring these ideas to life." She could feel her throat tighten, the truth of her choices spilling out. "I need to honor our grandfather's legacy, and I'm willing to fight for it." A flicker of surprise crossed Alex's face, and she seized the opportunity to press further. "If you truly believe in those inventions, let's discuss how we envision moving forward. But it needs to be on equal terms. I won't be intimidated." The uncertainty in his eyes was a revelation tinged with concern. Was he genuinely ready for a collaboration, or did he fear losing his grip? As they exchanged heated views, Sarah began to realize something vital. She was no longer just the cousin overshadowed by her family dynamics. Her bare convictions were her strength. The tension thickened, and as each past moment slipped away, she felt the weight of both the family legacy and her own aspirations colliding into a singular conviction. She was prepared to craft her narrative and seek validation not just from Alex, but from everyone who had ever doubted her. When their conversation finally waned, Sarah stood, shaking off the residual anxiety like a damp coat. She felt energized, invigorated by the confrontation that had, surprisingly, kindled a fire within her. "Let's move forward then. I'll work on the proposals, and we'll see where this project takes us." But just as she was about to leave, Alex's voice cut through the air, layered with more than just an air of challenge. "You might want to check the family records, Sarah. You'll find there's more at stake than you realize." The ominous undertone settled into her mind like a pebble thrown into a still pond, creating ripples of uncertainty. What did that mean? What could he possibly be hinting at? With her heart racing, Sarah stepped out of the cafe, and the tightness in her chest returned, this time with a sense of urgency. The battle just became more complex, and her instincts told her there were deeper layers to uncover, threats looming within the family history that could shift everything she believed. She wasn't just fighting for a project anymore. She was entering a labyrinth riddled with family secrets that could alter the course of her legacy altogether. The sun dipped lower in the sky as Sarah drove home, the light now a soft hue that did little to warm the chill gathering in her bones. The conversation with Alex replayed in her mind like a haunting refrain. Words of rivalry echoed, and his cryptic warning loomed larger than life. What was hidden in the family records? She felt an unsettling mixture of curiosity and dread, propelling her thoughts into dark corridors she hadn't even begun to acknowledge. Once home, she found herself in the kitchen, the familiar smells of dinner swirling around her like a comforting embrace. Yet even as she prepared a meal, her mind wrestled with a burgeoning resolve. She had to sift through the layers of her family's history, uncover the truths that could redefine her path. There was no room for hesitation now. She needed clarity. That night, the dinner table was a whirlwind of chatter from the kids, their laughter puncturing the bubble of tension surrounding her. But Sarah barely registered their joy. She was mentally cataloging files and letters she recalled from conversations with her mother. After dessert, with her children tucked into bed, she retreated to her desk. The faint glow of her computer screen illuminated an array of documents, half-forgotten memorabilia from family gatherings. She scoured through old emails and scanned the digital files, piecing together a timeline of their grandfather's work. What had once seemed like a colorful array of inventions now felt like fragmented memories, each holding a piece of the puzzle she was desperate to solve. Hours passed, her eyes growing heavy, yet unwilling to succumb to exhaustion. She pulled open an old folder marked with her grandfather's handwriting. Inside, she found documents relating to patents, some unfamiliar, others echoing the concepts Alex had mentioned. As she flipped through pages, her heart raced with each new discovery. A file tucked in the back caught her eye. It was handwritten, messy, yet urgent. The last entry referenced a supposed conflict that had nearly torn the family apart years ago. A disagreement over ownership. Ownership of what? The ambiguity gnawed at her as she traced sentences with a finger, her pulse quickening as the implications dawned upon her. The weight of her inheritance threatened to crush her. This wasn't just about inventions anymore. It was about lineage and legacy, most of which had been shrouded in silence. What had Alex known that she hadn't? As the clock ticked ominously, the final cost of their family discord unraveled in her mind. Hidden complexities, betrayals, and secrets loomed on the horizon, waiting to be unveiled. Was Alex conflicted in his desire for control, or did it run deeper? For a moment, she felt consumed by the revelations. Would she be strong enough to weather the storm that lay ahead? The prospect of diving deeper into the family's past filled her with a trepidation that mingled with excitement. She had to confront Alex again, but this time, it would be with knowledge, not just emotion driving her. Her determination crystallized anew. Tomorrow would not just involve crafting proposals. It would also require a confrontation armed with understanding. The clock struck midnight when she finally leaned back in her chair, staring into the abyss of what she now knew needed to change. She scrolled through the dim glow of her last document, her stomach twisting with resolve. But a gnawing question lingered. What had been left unsaid, and what secrets awaited at the intersection of family ties? With a sense of urgency igniting within her, she whispered to the darkness, "I'll find the truth." Just then, her phone buzzed, a new message illuminating her screen. "We need to talk. It's about the records." Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the weight of the impending confrontation settled on her once more, the stakes higher than ever. This was no longer just about collaboration. It was about survival in a battle she had unwittingly begun. The morning light poured through the kitchen window, bathing the room in a quiet glow that belied the tumult inside Sarah's mind. As she stirred her coffee, the robust aroma struggled to compete with the rising tension that clung to her like a second skin. The cryptic message from last night pulsed in her thoughts. "We need to talk. It's about the records." Being drawn into a family conflict she had avoided for too long, she felt a sense of urgency intertwining with dread. At the office, Sarah pushed aside the mundane tasks of stapling proposals and drafting emails. The clock ticked ominously, each second a reminder that the conversation with Alex loomed ahead. Every time she anticipated their exchange, she felt the steady rise of adrenaline mixed with a smattering of self-doubt. Would she emerge victorious, or would she walk away crushed under the weight of undisclosed family truths? She had once relished the predictability of her corporate role, but the disquieting call for familial engagement nudged her toward a personal growth she hadn't anticipated. The whispered doubts of her childhood, largely unexamined, rose to the surface, urging her to confront not only Alex, but also herself. During a quick lunch break, Sarah glanced at the documents she had gathered. Patents, agreements, and that pivotal handwritten note filled her mind. What had she been overlooking for years? The inquisitive part of her brain began to surface, hungry for clarity, and she recognized a flicker of her grandfather's determination within herself. This time, she approached Alex armed not just with questions, but with newfound determination. She felt the shift. This wasn't merely about controlling family narratives. It was about posing a challenge to herself, and perhaps reclaiming authority over a past that had dictated too many of her choices. She couldn't let fear gamble with her future any longer. Hours later, the warmth of the day waned and dusk began to settle, wrapping the world in a purplish haze. The time had come. Sarah arrived at the cafe where they had agreed to meet, a public place to house a private battle. The clinking of cups and soft murmur of voices surrounded them, a stark contrast to the storm brewing between the two. As she entered, Alex sat at a small table, a cup of espresso in hand. The moment their eyes met, a silent acknowledgement passed between them. This wasn't merely a meeting about records, but a reckoning of everything unspoken, bearing the weight of their shared history. "Thanks for coming," she began, her voice steady, despite the chaos swirling within. "I've uncovered some things." He raised an eyebrow, leaning back. "I suspected that might happen. You've always been quite the detective. I need to know what you're after, Alex. This rivalry, it can't just be about patents. Is there more at stake?" She locked her gaze with his, refusing to look away. The corners of his mouth twitched, a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "You think you've pieced the puzzle together?" "I think I'm just getting started. There's more than meets the eye here." As they sparred with words, Sarah realized this was about more than conflict. It was about establishing her own presence, a power she had long relegated to others, particularly in familial disputes. The innate urge to back down, to retreat into the comforting shadows of her past, fought against the fierce resolve forging within her. But she sensed a shift in Alex's demeanor, an openness, perhaps even a hint of vulnerability. "What if I told you that it's not just about the records, but about what we've lost as a family?" The complexity of their shared history began to unravel like a tightly wound string. He was hinting at something deeper. Perhaps they shared the same fears, the same ghosts. The moment hung heavy, filled with the precarious energy of potential reconciliation, or deeper division. In that instant, Sarah understood. This confrontation could redefine her relationship with Alex and herself. Every tidbit of knowledge held the potential to reshape them both, redirecting the course of legacy. She leaned in closer, her heart beating erratically, exhilaration mingling with trepidation. "I need to know everything, Alex. The truth. Whatever it is. It matters. And I won't back down this time." The cafe noise faded as he inhaled deeply and prepared to delve into the depths of their family's history, where secrets slumbered. Sarah braced herself, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. She sensed she was stepping closer to revelations that would test her strength and reshape her perspective entirely. But before he could respond, a shadow fell across their table, an unexpected presence interrupting their delicate moment. Sarah's pulse quickened. What was it that threatened to overshadow their conversation now? "Sarah!" a voice called, pulling her attention away from Alex and into the unknown chaos looming just beyond their discussion. Sarah turned abruptly, her mind racing to identify the voice that had disrupted their fraught exchange. Standing before her was Lisa, her old college roommate, and a friend she had not seen in years. The surprise in Lisa's eyes reflected a mix of confusion and concern as she quickly scanned the table, taking note of the palpable tension between Sarah and Alex. "Lisa?" Sarah's voice stumbled slightly, undoing her prior composure. She fought the urge to retreat into the familiarity of a friendship, her heart still unsettled from the confrontation at hand. "Wow, didn't expect to see you here. Is everything okay?" Lisa's question cut through the air, unintentionally shifting the focus from Alex to themselves. "It's, complicated," Sarah responded cautiously, her determination to face the truth warring with the instinctive need to protect her privacy. Alex leaned back, his expression unreadable, allowing Sarah a moment to reorient herself. She felt the weight of her unresolved issues pressing down on her, and Lisa's presence felt both like a reprieve and a formidable distraction. "Are you still working at Stratton Innovations?" Lisa asked, her enthusiasm momentarily overshadowing any awareness of the awkwardness lingering in the air. Yes, just integrating some new projects," Sarah managed to respond. But her mind kept drifting back to Alex across the table, his brow furrowed as he assessed the new dynamics of the encounter. "I'm actually back in town for a project myself," Lisa continued, clearly oblivious to the emotional whirlwind encircling Sarah. "We ended up getting contracted for a startup similar to what you might know." As she spoke, Sarah's interest began to peak. Lisa had always been the embodiment of ambition and creativity. "Really? What's the startup about?" "Social impact strategies, aiming to innovate how small businesses operate and invest in local communities," Lisa explained, her passion evident. "But enough about that. You don't seem like you're in a business meeting. What's really going on?" Feeling cornered yet drawn to Lisa's genuine concern, Sarah's defenses fell momentarily. "I'm here dealing with some family issues," she said, unsure how much to disclose. "My brother. There are things about our family's past that we've never addressed, and I'm trying to confront them." "Family issues can be tough," Lisa said, nodding with empathy. "But sometimes they can lead to amazing discoveries, too." Sarah absorbed those words, recognizing the truth in them. This complex, fraught conversation with Alex could potentially unveil a wealth of understanding about her family and herself, a catalyst for personal growth she never anticipated. "I hope so." Sarah exhaled slowly, lifting her coffee cup as if to bolster her courage. But before she could elaborate further, Alex interrupted, his voice laced with sharp curiosity that felt almost out of character. "What kind of discoveries?" he asked, a flicker of renewed interest sparkling in his eyes. Lisa turned to Alex, still processing their atmospheric tension but willing to engage. "Sometimes confronting buried secrets can uncover not just truths, but unexpected opportunities," she said, her voice deceptively unassuming yet layered with conviction. Sarah's heart danced precariously as moments of hesitation unfurled. Now she grappled not just with Alex's challenges, but also with her inability to articulate her own turbulent emotions. What if Lisa's very presence provided the clarity she needed? It felt like a double-edged sword at that moment, I may have just scratched the surface, but it feels critical to dig deeper. Sarah admitted, her challenging bravado returning. There's a legacy that's been tangled between misunderstandings, and I need to unravel it. And I'm here supporting you, whatever you need. Lisa said earnestly, radiating a warmth that ignited Sarah's desire to break free from the chains of her past. As Sarah looked back at Alex, she felt the familiar surge of resolve within her. It's time to face our family's hidden truths, she declared more firmly, her voice steady as she steadied herself against the swirling currents of uncertainty. So, what's stopping you? Alex asked, stepping into the role of an unexpected ally, his demeanor softening. She contemplated his words, realizing that it wasn't just about uncovering the records. They were the key to something greater. Perhaps their family's past held a mosaic of discoveries ready to guide them into a powerful future. The moment hung in the air, thick with potential. Just as she was about to respond, the cafe's door swung open, and an unfamiliar figure entered. A stranger whose presence felt like an intrusion on their fragile moment of connection. Sarah squinted, her instincts reacting. What would this new arrival bring to the surface? Sarah, is that you? The stranger called out, locking eyes with her, and the weight of unforeseen complications crashed over her like a tidal wave. Would it pull her further from the confrontation she desperately needed, or push her closer to the truth waiting just beneath the surface? Sarah's heart raced as she recognized the voice calling her name. It belonged to Jenna, a childhood friend who had vanished from her life years ago. The last memory tinged with laughter and secrets buried in the past. Why was she here? Sarah's mind reeled back to the innocent days of their childhood, a time when life was simple, and their biggest concern was the next school play. Sarah, Jenna repeated, her eyes narrowing as she approached. The warmth of her smile brought both comfort and confusion. I thought that was you. It's been forever. Yeah, it has, Sarah replied, forcing a smile, her emotions churning beneath the surface. She felt an overwhelming urge to retreat, to protect the fragile honesty she'd begun to forge with Alex. The unfinished conversation loomed like a dark cloud. What are you doing here? I just moved back to town, Jenna said, her animated tone contrasting with the somber atmosphere encircling Sarah's table. I'm working in digital marketing now. Saw a couple of old friends, and I was hoping to reconnect. As Jenna spoke, Sarah couldn't help but feel the stirrings of nostalgia and regret. Jenna had always been adventurous, and here she was, diving headfirst into a new chapter, while Sarah grappled with the weight of old secrets. Sarah's eyes flicked over to Alex, who observed the interaction with restrained curiosity. Despite Jenna's joyful demeanor, the distance Sarah felt from her current reality only widened. What a coincidence, Lisa chimed in, her eyes darting back and forth, intrigued by the sudden shift in dynamics. Well, we're just having a little catch-up ourselves. Right, Sarah said, attempting to bring the focus back to the conversation with Alex and the impending confrontation about their family's hidden truths, only to be interrupted again. Honestly, Sarah, Jenna's tone shifted subtly, laced with concern. I've heard some things about your family. Something about your brother. Are you okay? You know you can talk to me. The offer hung in the air, pulling Sarah's thoughts. Did she want to share? Would the mere act of opening up her world to someone who once had known her exceedingly well help her navigate the tumult she currently faced? I'm trying to work through it, Sarah admitted, her voice barely a whisper. There was a remarkable strength in breakdowns, and today she felt the gravity of that statement more than ever. There are layers I've never fully understood, and I need to confront them. Just as her words settled, Jenna's expression shifted from concern to something more profound. Curiosity laced with empathy. You know what? Sometimes those buried layers can unfold in ways we never anticipate. Jenna's voice drifted softly, beckoning Sarah to explore further. If you want, I'd be happy to help you sort it out. Really, it might be good to just talk. In that moment, Sarah felt her resolve waver. This was genuine support. Yet the revelation felt daunting as she glimpsed her own vulnerability. The conflict within her threatened to fracture the fragile facade of control she had so tried to maintain. Could this be an opportunity for insight? Or was she allowing distractions that could easily draw her away from confronting Alex? The clock on the cafe wall ticked ominously, echoing the pressing heaviness in her chest. She needed to maintain focus, to harness the unexpected support around her. It dawned on her that the puzzle pieces of her past, along with the chaos surrounding Alex, might fit together in ways she couldn't yet see. Jenna, I appreciate that. It's just, the past has so many twists. Alex interjected, breaking the momentary silence. Twists that can lead to clarity. Maybe we all need to figure out our own paths, together. He met Sarah's gaze, an unspoken challenge aimed directly at her heart. Sarah felt a surge of determination. Perhaps Jenna's return and Alex's involvement were not distractions, but rather signs leading her toward confrontation and resolution. As the cafe buzzed around them, Sarah suddenly felt ready to dig deep and face the challenges ahead. Her eyes flicked to the door, wondering if any other unexpected figures would emerge, adding more layers to the unfolding narrative of her life. What could come next? She pondered, wondering if she truly had the courage to embrace all the possibilities that lay ahead. Sarah sat back in her chair, her heart drumming as Jenna's words echoed in her mind. The warmth of their childhood friendship washed over her, yet a current of unease pulsed through the air. She wasn't sure what she wanted to share. More pressing was the question of whether she could confront her own past without unraveling completely. Together? The word lingered in her mind like a warning bell. Was she ready to face the memories locked away in the depths of her mind alongside Jenna and Alex? A twinge of apprehension gripped her. The idea of revealing her truths felt risky. It threatened to expose the fragile progress she'd made regarding her family and her hidden grief about her brother. Alex's steady gaze bolstered her determination. Maybe Jenna's presence, rather than a distraction, was an opportunity. The kind she hadn't realized she needed. She drew in a sharp breath, feeling the weight of expectation from both her friends. This felt like a line in the sand. A moment of decision that could lead to meaningful change rather than further secrets. Okay, let's talk, Sarah decided, her voice steadier than she felt. But not here. I think we need a place where we can really explore what's going on. A hint of nostalgia flickered at the edges of her resolve. This was a step into the unknown, but she felt the pull of growth urging her to press forward. Jenna nodded eagerly, her enthusiasm infectious. I know a great little cafe around the corner. It's quiet, perfect for a good conversation, she said, oblivious to the churning doubts within Sarah. As they walked to the second cafe, Sarah's mind danced between anxious thoughts and flashes of clarity. Would she be able to articulate her feelings? Would Jenna understand the struggle she faced? The churning questions melded with the rush of the afternoon sun, casting long shadows that reflected her internal conflict. They settled into a cozy corner, away from the hustle and bustle. Sarah felt the familiar grip of nostalgia, but also noticed the paths they had diverged since childhood. Jenna seemed confident, vibrant, someone who had seized opportunities, while Sarah had felt trapped in a web of familial obligations and hidden fear. What's on your mind? Jenna prompted, sipping her coffee, her expression inviting yet probing. Honestly, I guess I'm just nervous, Sarah admitted. Her voice wavered as she searched for the right words. There's so much I've buried, and it's almost like I'm afraid that talking about it will just open up a floodgate. Sometimes it's the floodgates we need to break down, Jenna replied, her tone comforting but firm. You're not alone, Sarah. I'm here for you. The reassurance in Jenna's voice was palpable. Still, Sarah felt torn. Would admitting her vulnerabilities lead to strength? Or would it rip apart the tightly woven fabric of the life she'd constructed around herself? As she reflected on her family's issues, an unanticipated tension grumbled in her chest. Navigating this conversation felt like walking a tightrope. The past wasn't merely nostalgia. It emerged as a tangled web of secrets and unresolved emotions that tethered her to a painful legacy. Suddenly, an image surfaced in her mind. A memory of her brother's laughter, a stark contrast to her current realities. Could she really face this painful history not just for herself, but for the sake of her family? The intermingling threads of Sarah's anxiety and determination lay heavy on her shoulders as Jenna prepared to delve deeper. Outside, the city moved on, blissfully unaware of the crossroads forming within their small table, set in the dim cafe corner. What if? Sarah faltered, the weight of doubt now colliding with her flicker of determination. What if facing this only complicates things more? The question hung momentarily, thick with emotional gravity. Jenna met her gaze, unwavering. Sometimes a storm is necessary for new growth, Sarah. You have to face it to move forward. With that, a new fire ignited within Sarah. Perhaps she didn't need to fear what lay ahead. She could lean into this moment. What lay on the other side of this discussion could redefine not just her past, but also help sculpt her future. Just as she began to feel more settled in her resolve, a figure brushed past their table, sending a jolt through her with startling familiarity. She turned, her stomach twisting at the sight of someone she never thought she would see again. An old wound resurfaced, and with it, the realization that her journey was just beginning. What happens next? She thought, a tumultuous mixture of fear and anticipation gearing her up for what was to come. The initial shock of seeing someone from her past sent Sarah's mind racing. Memories surged forward like a tidal wave, breaching the carefully constructed dam she had built around her emotions. Did he recognize her? Would he approach? Her heart raced, twirling her thoughts into a dizzying spiral. Sarah? Jenna's voice pulled her back to their table, offering a lifeline amid her chaotic reflections. Who was that? You looked like you'd seen a ghost. Just someone I used to know, Sarah managed, though the words felt inadequate. Half-formed thoughts flitted through her mind. Questions she might ask or revelations she'd want to avoid. Each one heavier than the last. I can see that. You okay? Jenna's incisive gaze scrutinized the turmoil on Sarah's face. It felt at once like an intrusive unveiling and a necessary examination of her inner landscape. I guess I'm still processing things about my brother, she finally admitted, the words flowing with unexpected ease. Whenever I think I'm ready to confront the past, it feels like it's too overwhelming. Her voice quaked, but an underlying resolve began to surface. Maybe it's about confronting it in smaller bites, Alex interjected, careful and considerate as ever. You've spent so long keeping those feelings at bay. Start with a single memory. What comes to mind when you think of him? A single memory? The suggestion stirred something deep within her, coaxing buried truths into the light. Sarah inhaled, picturing her brother's skewed smile, laughter echoing through the halls their childhood home. There was a summer when the image began to solidify. We built a treehouse together. It was our fortress. With hesitant gratitude, she found herself resting more of her weight into the moment, allowing the warmth of the memory to shield her anxiety. We thought we were unstoppable. We crafted a whole world from that tree. And now, I feel like I've lost that. Lost him. Jenna's face softened with understanding, the invisible thread of their bond tightening. You are not lost, though. Those memories are part of you. They're waiting for you to take them back into your life. You can't change the past, but you can reclaim it in your present. You can shape how it affects your future. Sarah considered Jenna's words carefully, realizing they provided a path toward healing. No longer did she need to view the past through a lens of tragedy. Instead, she could wrestle with her grief and transform it into a strength that honored her brother's memory. The revelation ignited a fierce sense of purpose within her. Maybe I can learn from that summer, instead of covering it up. Exactly, Alex supported. We all have those defining moments. If you can translate that memory into a part of your life now, it could reshape your perceptions. With newfound courage, she turned back to Jenna. Can we talk about the deeper stuff? I mean, I want to be honest with you and Alex about my family and everything that's holding me back. Of course. Jenna nodded with an encouraging smile. This is what I meant. Let's melt those floodgates down. Together. Before Sarah could fully absorb the decision she had made, the familiar face from earlier turned once more, locking eyes with her. This time she felt a mix of defiance and curiosity. Would avoiding him keep her sheltered, or did facing him hold at least some answers? Time slowed as she wrestled with her instincts. The cafe filled with noise around them, but at that moment she could hear the steady drum of her heart, resolute against uncertainty. The choice stood in front of her, vibrating with tension. As she began to summon the strength needed for confrontation, whether with her past or the unexpected figure behind her, the stakes became painfully clear. Would she break down in fear and risk losing the progress she'd just made? Or would she embrace the discomfort and step into a new realm of courage? The path of her development lay stretched before her, tantalizingly ambiguous. Would she rise to meet it? With a deep breath, she turned to Jenna and Alex, ready to untangle the threads of her past. But just as she steadied herself, the figure approached her table, a shadow beneath the glow of the cafe lights. Sarah, he said, his voice strikingly familiar. And just like that, the next chapter began with new connections poised to unravel everything she thought she knew. As Sarah took a deep breath, she steadied herself, ready to confront the unexpected presence before her. The familiar voice sent a shiver down her spine. It was Jack, the last person she had thought she would see again. The yearbook photo of him flashed in her mind, a carefree smile, the boy who had once inspired her dreams of adventure and possibility. Now he stood there, a reminder of all the years that had drifted away. Jack? I didn't expect to see you here, Sarah managed to say, her heartbeat steadying as familiarity washed over her. I know, right? Seems like a twist of fate, he replied, stepping into the space where their shared past lingered. I just moved back after a few years away. I've been thinking about old times and figured it was time to reconnect with some friends. A soft smile crept onto Sarah's face, a mixture of nostalgia and apprehension. Stress momentarily lifted as she registered the warmth behind his words. But amidst that fleeting comfort, the unresolved tension surrounding her brother, the family's long-hidden truths, still lingered heavily. Jenna, ever perceptive, observed the dynamics shifting in the room. Sarah, is everything all right? Do you want to introduce us? Her encouragement opened a door. Using Jack's familiar presence, the idea of revisiting problems with renewed support made her feel empowered. Of course, Sarah said, gesturing toward Jenna and Alex. Everyone, this is Jack. He was a big part of my childhood. The introductions were made, but Sarah noticed Jack's attention returned solely to her, as if he recognized the layers of complexity surrounding them. "It's great to see you after all these years," Jack said, looking deeper than just a casual friend reconnecting. "What have you been up to?" The questions felt oddly freeing, and in that moment, Sarah made a choice. "It's complicated, actually. I'm working through some family issues," she confessed, realizing the vulnerability of sharing her journey could draw them closer together. "It's about my brother and some family history that has resurfaced. I'm trying to make sense of it all." Jack's eyebrows rose. "Family issues can be tough," he said, his eyes inviting her to expand, waiting patiently as Sarah sifted through her emotions. "You know I lost my own brother a few years back. It was a difficult time, but that struggle taught me so much about finding strength in the connections around us." Sarah felt her heart leap in resonance, a shared understanding forming between them. "I think facing our past is crucial if we want to pave a new path moving forward," she agreed, reflecting on Jenna's earlier assurances and Alex's supportive presence. Strengthened by Jack's empathy, she turned, vulnerability transforming into determination. "Facing unresolved issues tends to unearth buried truths. Will you help me face this, Jack? I need all the strength I can gather." With a nod, Jack's expression shifted, solidifying commitment. "Absolutely. That's what friends are for, right?" He extended his hand to her shoulder, reassurance digging deeper than superficial pleasantries. "Yeah," Sarah replied, warmth spreading through her as she absorbed the support of those surrounding her. The room felt infused with possibilities, vibrant and glowing. Alex, who had been quietly observing while soaking in the resemblance of camaraderie, interjected. "It's going to take courage, Sarah, but you've already shown so much. This is a great step. Together, we'll navigate this." Jenna added, her steadfast gaze directed toward Sarah, whose mind raced with determination. It dawned on her that she had the entire support network she needed right here in this moment. "I'm ready," Sarah asserted, her voice growing stronger. Each breath steadied her resolve, and she began laying out the pieces of her family legacy on the metaphorical table. "I want to uncover everything. The records, the inventions, everything related to our grandfather, so I can take control of my own destiny." Jack leaned in attentively. "I might have some insights or resources. Let's create a strategy together." A surge of excitement swelled inside Sarah, affirming the perspective shift she had desperately sought. The path forward wasn't just about her. It was a collaborative journey toward understanding, healing, and appreciation of their intertwined fates. Clarifying the past provided a foundation upon which she could build a life imbued with purpose. As the conversation flowed, stories surrounded them like a warm blanket. She discovered Jack had studied engineering. He already had insightful ideas about navigating invention patents and funding avenues that could potentially contribute to their shared goals. The transparency shifted the room's dynamic. Ideas sparked like fireflies in the dusky light of the cafe, as Jenna chimed in with marketing angles, while Alex conceptualized how to blend innovation and her family's history together. They were crafting a vision, a rebirth of legacy wrapped in support, strength, and ambition. With her heart full, Sarah recognized a monumental realization. She had cultivated a collective of allies rooted in understanding. People committed to discovering truths, triumphing over burdens, and embracing new beginnings. Those joys do not come without uncertainty. But she finally felt ready to embrace both the known and unknown. "That's it!" Sarah exclaimed, her excitement palpable as she thought through their combined efforts. Turning to the trio gathered around her, she felt fierce clarity. "Let's create a proposal that encapsulates all of it. Our journey, our aspirations, our family's inventions. I want to honor my grandfather's legacy and reshape it into something powerful we can all believe in." The energy in the cafe shifted with her conviction. Conversations spun in rushing waves, ideas hanging like constellations in the night sky, illuminating a path previously veiled. They left the cafe as the sun dipped beyond the horizon, the weight of Sarah's history transforming into tangible energy that propelled her forward. She felt a solid confidence in her newfound alliances and a steadfast belief in her competence. The battle ahead was now a quest for discovery, adaptation, and growth. Standing beside her friends, she inhaled deeply, feeling fortified for all that lay ahead. This was a moment unlike any before. They were ready to forge their destiny. Reflecting on her journey, Sarah whispered to herself, "I won't back down from what's mine." And in that vow lay the seeds of accomplishment. The past had provided lessons forged in pain. Now she was evolving into the architect of her future. One filled with purpose, courage, and the ability to rise up, reclaim a legacy, and transform a life. Now, as a call to action, I urge you to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that uncover the transformative journeys of individuals. Leave a like now if you feel inspired, because your support fuels our mission. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's powerful conclusion. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative finale. This is your moment to show support, so don't wait. Even one more second. Act now. Act.